أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'd like to ask you all
وعليكم
well.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Please forgive me for that extra long delay today. Alhamdulillah, I had my laptop fixed, but a whole new screen had to be put on, so I couldn't access the camera this morning. And I just needed to fix that before we could start class. Right, so as we usually do, we start, just say our sort of scales bismillah ta'ala. And then after that we can go into our Nahwu. Bismillah. So everybody can say it. فعل فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل مفعل فعل لا تفعل. Third باب. فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. Fourth باب. أفعل يفعل إفعالا مفعل مفعل أفعل لا تفعل. Fifth باب. تفعل يتفعل تفعلا متفعل متفعل تفعل لا تتفعل. The sixth scale. تفاعل يتفاعل تفاعلا متفاعل متفاعل تفاعل لا تتفاعل. Seventh scale. انفعل ينفعل انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. Eighth scale. افتعل يفتعل افتعالا مفتعل مفتعل افتعل لا تفتعل. Ninth scale. افعل يفعل افعلالا مفعل افعل لا تفعل. Tenth scale. استفعل يستفعل استفعالا مستفعل مستفعل استفعل لا تستفعل. Right. Let's move on to our Nahwu بإذن ta'ala. Nahwu, we had started with our lesson on, or we did the first part of our lesson on the Mubtada, right? Our previous lesson was on the khabar, and yes, though that's not the natural order, we usually first speak about the Mubtada, then the khabar, but we did this for good reason, right? So in fact, in knowing how to identify that khabar and understand that khabar, it makes it easier to know the Mubtada. So we looked at the Mubtada, and the first part of our lesson on the Mubtada is simply that we said the Mubtada can be a mabni word. What do we mean by mabni? A word that is non-declinable. It doesn't change despite the hal that it may be in. It doesn't change its form. It doesn't change its end casing, right? We looked at some different types of mabni words. ضمائر, أسماء الإشارة, أسماء الموصولة. We looked at all of those different examples. And then we just, there was an exercise with a whole lot of examples in which you were to translate the sentences. And I asked as an additional step to highlight what the Mubtada is, right? Another point that we mentioned is that when a word is mabni, right, but it's supposed to be in a hal, then we say it is in an implied state of that hal. So instead of saying the word is in halatul raf, what do we say? Anybody?
Do we say في محل رفع في محل
Right. في محل رفع في محل رفع وفي محل نصب وفي محل جر, depending on which hal it's supposed to be in. Why? Because it's an implied state here. Right? That's just a technical phrase. Why is it good to know that technical phrase? Like I said, it will enable you. I mean, you may not see that now, but inshallah, it will enable you to read about i'rab of texts, right? In classical Arabic literature, like for example, a tafsir on i'rab. For example, I can give you an example of that. Look, where's my tafsir? Just a few tafsir, yeah. Here's a tafsir called i'rab al-Quran wa bayani. I'm just going to open up. Let's open up the first one. And let's go to Surah Al-Baqarah, the first page number 21. So we go to the section on i'rab. You see, just look where I've highlighted with my pen. Let's just see if you can read and understand that this is now a tafsir on i'rab, right? I'rab al-Quran, analyzing the Quran grammatically. So it says here, ذَلِكَ. This is actually looking at the verse of the Quran. Alif Lam Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. So that ذَلِكَ, how do I analyze that word ذَلِكَ? ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ. So look at it. ذَلِكَ. So what is it saying? Anybody want to give it a chance? Want to try and read it?
It says اسم الإشارة في محل رفع مبتدأ.
Brilliant. Right? So it's telling you what type of word it is. It's a noun, اسم إشارة. Right? It's telling you that it's في محل رفع. It's telling you which implied حال it's in, and then it's telling you why. مبتدأ. Right? So you've just shown yourself there now that you're able to read at least part of a tafsir on i'rab. Somebody says, also look at the i'rab and Quran Hive. To be honest with you, I haven't checked Quran Hive much. I haven't checked much of Quran Hive, but I can't imagine that Quran Hive is going to give you as much information as you will get from a proper i'rab tafsir. Yes.
Quran corpus is quite good also. It does give quite detailed, and it also gives it like the English and the Arabic explanation.
I still can't imagine the Quran corpus will give you anything close to what you can get from a proper i'rab tafsir like this. Let me give you an example. Simple example. Let's say I go to maybe it's not a simple example, but okay, it is an example. Let's go to Suratul Masad. Right? Is that what you're speaking about? This is on the screen now?
Yes, Malana. Like on the right hand side.
Okay. So now let's go to the verse. تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب. Look at this word here. حمالة الحطب. It just says here, accusative, feminine, singular, active particle, and then it tells you ismu mansub. That's telling you that it's a noun that's in nas, but it's not explaining to you why. Whereas if I go to that same thing in here? Let's go. Volume 10. Where's Surah Al-Masad? 600, 607. No, sorry, 608. Let's look under the Arab section. Look at that word حمالته. وامرأته حمالته. So let's see what it says here. What section is this on there? Yes. Here we have the section وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. It gives you some detail about that. And then let's see. وحمالة. You see the word حمالة الحطب? See the حمالة الحطب. I want to look at the word. Why is the word حمالة? Because if you just read it, the sentence starts وامرأته حمالة الحطب. This is the khabar. Isn't it supposed to be وامرأته حمالة الحطب? Isn't it? If imra'atuhu is the mubtada and حمالة الحطب is the khabar, shouldn't be read with raf. Why is it in nasb? So that's what I'm telling you. I didn't make that clear enough. When I went to Quran corpus, it just told me it's a word in nasb, placed into nasb. But if I read it normally, I should tell myself this word's supposed to be in raf. It's the khabar. What's happening over here? So here he tells me وحمالة الحطب قرئ بالنصب. It's read in nasb. Why? He tells me على الشتم. على الشتم. The hal changed from رفع to nasb to highlight the word for dispraise. To highlight the word for dispraise. And then he'll give you like explanation about that as well. وأنا أستحب هذه القراءة says الزمخشري. And then he says وقرئ بالرفع على النعت. And then rather than it being the mubtada, he says here, it could also be read بالرفع. It could also be read in some narrations or some riwayat of the Quran in رفع. But then what will it be? على النعت. It will be a na'at. Na'at means the same like a sifa. It will be a sifa. So it will have the same حال as وامرأته حمالة. You understand? And we'll give them a lot more explanation. So the point that I was making was not that all of those other resources that you have are bad. They are good resources, but they don't even begin. They just like scratch the surface of, of what is available in terms of understanding the Quran, the complexity in the Quran. I can, when we go through more of the Quran, you'll see we'll come across a single verse, and you can analyze maybe the Arab of a single word. You can analyze it in 6 different ways, maybe even. And I can guarantee you, Quran is not going to give you that. No, is Quran I am going to give you that. I may be wrong. Like I said, I haven't worked very much with Quran I have especially, but I just can't imagine that it's going to give you that much depth. So it's good to know these little phrases في محل رفع, because it's a stepping stone to allow you access into the world of tafsir, the world of the Quran, and understanding it from the Arabic language, right? That's why we had a lesson on it. Though it may have seemed very, very easy. Okay, how do I identify the mubtada? I'm not going to go through the translations of these all. As the last time, we'll give you these translations. But for now, I just want you to go through them with me. Right? Go through them with me and just identify the mubtada. So, number one, where's the mubtada? إنما نحن مصلحون. Somebody help me?
نحن.
نحن, there we go. وأنتم تعلمون. أنتم, right. هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. هو. أولئك أصحاب النار.
Well, I can ask a question about.
Go for
Can I ask a question about number 3?
Right.
I know that alladhi is also sometimes a mubtada, and it goes together with that huwa. So that's why I sort of underlined both. I thought alladhi is referring back to the huwa, so I made both a mubtada.
Okay, so huwa is a dhamir, right? Dhamir is a type of noun, a pronoun. Alladhi, what kind of word is that?
Ismul mawsul.
Ismul mawsul, correct. It's also a separate ism. Now, how would we normally analyze a sentence? First, we find the mubtada and we say huwa is a mubtada. That's just the first word, unless we can definitively say that the next word is connected to it. And the next noun, how will we count the next noun? Or what will we, our first instinct be? That the next word must be our khabar. And we can test whether that's correct by seeing if I can place the is or are between the two.
Okay, yeah.
So let's check it. Huwa alladhi, he is the one who. And then we know alladhi, because it's ism mawsul, it never stands on its own. It must have a silatul mawsul, something after it that clarifies it, qualifies it. Right? So we do have that. خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. But to just look at that basic sentence structure there, huwa is the mubtada, alladhi is the khabar.
Okay, that does make sense. Okay.
Right, perfect. So this is a principle. Bismillah. Yes.
We were trying to figure out what is the i'rab of the jamia, but we weren't sure because we just because we were practicing our i'rab for all of them, but we couldn't figure out what was the i'rab for jamia. Why is it in nasb?
Okay, I think the reason that you might not have been able to identify the i'rab of this jamia is because we likely didn't do it yet formally.
Okay.
This year, it's an adverb of manner. He created you all together. Or he created whatever's in the heavens and the earth for you all together. It's speaking about how he did the act of creation. Right? And we call that in Arabic hal. You heard about that before?
No, ma.
Right.
We saw it last yesterday. We saw it last night on the i'rab of Quran.
Okay, you saw it on the
but we just
Right.
Yeah.
So hal means an adverb of manner. Like you guys, you knew what a dharf meant, right? When we were speaking before about the khabar, we said you can have a dharf plus a mudaf ilayh. So what is a dharf?
A dharf is a place of or time. Dharf makan and dharf zaman.
So dharf, we said is an adverb, right? And you can have a dharf zaman, an adverb of time, or you can have a dharf makan, an adverb of place. Now hal is what we call an adverb of manner. Tells you how the action was done, what condition, the condition of the action. Right? But inshallah, when we this is a rafa, when we move on to nasb, then we'll cover all of that as well. Okay, next one. أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. مبتدأ.
أولئك.
Is that all? There's two sentences here. Whom is also
and the whom for the second part.
Right.
Well, I'm going to ask a question.
Sure, bismillah.
So this ulaika is an ismul ishara. When I went back to the notes from first year, it says that if there is a visible al after an ismul ishara, then we don't add an is or are in the translation. Does that make the first part, the what we call the ismul ishara, still a mubtada? Because for the example they give in the first year textbook is hadha al-baytu. And then when you translate that, that becomes this house, not this is a house.
But I can say this house is big. I can say هذا البيت كبير. So you see, something being an ismul ishara, right? Listen to this. Something being an ismul ishara tells you the type of word that it is. It doesn't tell you the function that is playing in the sentence. It doesn't give the word a hal. You follow?
I think I follow what I'm saying.
The thing that gives the word the hal is what we're going to call it in relation to this, in relation to the makeup of the sentence. So ulaika, yes, it's a ismul ishara. Okay, in this case, it doesn't work here, but let's take for your question. Let's say, sorry, هذا البيت هذا البيت. What does that mean?
This house, because there's a visible al over there. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to say it's big. هذا البيت كبير. Now I will analyze the sentence. هذا, this is مبتدأ. This word over here is connected to this word. And so what we'll call it, I'm going to just do this now for simplicity's sake, because of the word that you know, right? That's a ismul ishara. You call this a musharun ilay, right? Is that what you called it?
Yes, Maulana.
Yes. Musharun ilay, yeah.
Musharun ilay. Or other times it might be referred to in text as badal. That we'll talk about another time, right? So mubtada, musharun ilay. But now we need to find, where do I put the is and the are? Between which two words?
Between the al-bayt and the kabirun.
Right, so this word here is going to be my khabar. Does that example clarify for you?
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. Shukran. Thanks, Maulana.
Afwan.
Maulana, but
Yes.
in the example, ulaika ashabu, I think the translation is those will be the companions. And I had thought that ashabu is the khabar, but then there's no is and are between ulaika and ashabu.
This is the khabar. You are correct. This is the khabar. Ashabun nar. Ashabu is the khabar. And nar is connected to ashabu. So now you can put the is or are there. Ulaika ashabun nar. Ulaika, those are ashabun nar, the companions of the hellfire. Those are the companions of the hellfire. Can you see?
Yeah, so as long as you can put an R in that it makes sense, then you know it's the khabar linked to the mubtada. Is that?
Yeah, usually, as a principle, there is an implied is or are between the mubtada and the khabar. Look, is or are in the past tense will be was, and in the future will be. That makes sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Okay,
so if in context, right, I have a normal mubtada and khabar. The norm for a mubtada and khabar is that I'm going to put it into the present tense. Right? I'm going to use is or are. However, if my entire discussion is already framed in the past tense, like maybe from a previous sentence or something, then what's going to happen is that the jumla ismiya that I have in front of me, I'm also going to understand it in the past tense. Like, let me give you an example. I'll say, maybe it's just that I'm talking about a historic event, right? And then I have a sentence that looks like a normal jumla ismiya. I will understand it in the past tense. Or if I'm speaking about something in the future, like here, it's speaking about the states of people in the year after. That's why in translation you may have found will be, right? But the actual sentence, if we just take it as a linguistic sentence, then it means those are the companions of the hellfire. Hum fiha khalidun, and they, like the sentence hum fiha khalidun literally means they are ever abiding fiha, in it. They are ever abiding in it. But because we know it's about, people entering the hellfire in relation, chronologically for us, that must still come. That's in the future. So that's why we change the are to will be. Right? So don't let that, that context of an entire discussion either being in the past tense or in the future tense throw you off. Just look at the equivalent for is or are.
Shukran, Maulana, that helps a lot.
عفوا. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم. الذين. Next one. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم. أولئك. تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها. تلك اسم مبتدأ. فأولئك هم الظالمون. أولئك. And the same, if there's any other specific one you want me to look at.
Maulana, the one with tilka hududullah, we couldn't figure out why they use the feminine form there. So
okay,
tilka is feminine, and then taqrabuha is also feminine, and so we were a bit confused why the feminine pronouns were used.
You started off correct, but then you made a little bit of a mistake. So taqrabuha is not feminine. taqrabuha is a nahi. Right? اقرب وقرب يقرب. The amr will be uqrub. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's going to be taqrab. اقرب. And the nahi will be la taqrab. And the plural will be la taqrabu. So this is a nahi. I could ask you to go down the scale for me. Let's go back to our sarf. Right? And look at the verb from qaf, ra, and ba. Qaf, ra, and ba. So the verb that we have here is qariba yaqrabu. Qariba yaqrabu. Normally we use it in the form qaruba yaqrubu, but it can also be on the form qariba yaqrabu. To be near, to come close, to get close to something, to approach something. So qariba yaqrabu. If we say that scale, yaqrabu yaqrabuna. Taqrabu yaqrabna. Taqrabu taqrabuna. Taqrabina taqrabna. Now look at those. Taqrabu, taqrabuna, taqrabina, taqrabna. They all start with a ta, but they're not indicating femininity. They're indicating that they are the second person. Right? And naturally, how do I form the nahi? From the second person. لا تقرب, لا تقربوا, لا تقربي, لا تقربنا. This over here is the nahi. But before we even look at that, let's look at our simple sentence. The simple sentence that we have here is تلك حدود الله. تلك حدود الله. So where does the concordance need to be? Where do the words need to agree in gender? this word needs to agree with this word in gender. This is the mubtada. That is my khabar. These two words agree in gender. Does tilka agree with hudud? Well, the singular is a had. Haddun. The plural is hudud. And remember, it's a plural of an inanimate object. Jam' غير عاقل. So how do we treat a plural of an inanimate object? We treat it as a singular feminine. Right? And isn't tilka singular and feminine?
Yes, no, that makes sense. Okay, so it's tilka is for hudud.
Tilka is so that it's an agreement with hudud. That's the whole sentence is actually, there's two sentences here. Tilka hududullah. Those are the limits of Allah. Like the bounds of Allah. But yes, yeah. Then the next sentence says, fa. So because those are the bounds that Allah has said, la taqrabuha. Do not approach them. You, the readers of the Quran, you do not approach those bounds of Allah. Don't come close to them. You understand?
So, Maulana, why do you end with them?
Because again, ha is referring to what? Do not approach what? The hudud. Ha is singular feminine, isn't it? And we're treating hudud as singular feminine because it's a jama' غير عاقل. So that it literally is don't approach her, but or it. But what's it referring to? It's approaching those limits, which is a plural. So I think it makes grammatical sense to translate it as I did. Understood?
Well, the translation is also translated it to them, but we try to figure out with the ha. Why
Right, so,
is it?
So now you know. Why is it ha? Why is it them? Because the ha in form it's singular and feminine. But what it's actually referring to is the hudud, which is a plural. So don't, again, that's another rule you mustn't forget. Inanimate plurals of inanimate objects, we treat them as a singular feminine word. Right? Okay. Any other example here? Okay.
We didn't know we didn't know that we thought that rule only applies to the actual. We didn't know that it would apply to damirs as well. So any damir that we can.
It applies across the board in everything. You always refer to a plural of a, I mean, you can get exceptions, there's always exceptions, but you generally always refer to a plural of an inanimate object as a singular feminine word, whether it be in relation to its sifa, or it be in relation to the pronoun that you use to refer to it, or it be in relation to, you know, how something agrees with it, whether it be like mubtada or khabar, it doesn't matter. You always treat it as a singular feminine.
So why would it not be hadihi?
Because hadihi means these. Tilka means those. Or literally hadi means this, tilka means that. That's it, because it's singular. So the question then is for distance. So Allah has indicated those things are the limits set by Allah. Right? Referring to it, it obviously refers in this context to something that was mentioned before. Right. Okay. I think we'll take a pause over there. Next week we'll move on to the mubtada mu'akhar. Mubtada mu'akhar. What's a mubtada mu'akhar? A delayed mubtada, when the mubtada isn't at the beginning of the sentence. So I have my khabar first and then my mubtada. We'll look at that next week, inshallah.
Maulana, Well, we will be looking at, because so, when we do other surahs, then they are the harful jar ismul majroor also at the beginning of the sentence.
That's exactly what we're going to do next, inshallah.
Okay. Right, Maulana.
All right. Okay. So we're getting a message clear. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So what we're going to do now is, I think you guys were not scheduled to have, well, you were supposed to, but something happened. So you're not going to have a period with Mullah Irshad coming up. You guys can join the Dawra class at 12:30 like normal. So yeah, class resumes at 10:30 with the Dawah, inshallah. With the Dawra, yes.
Maulana,
Yes.
what surah is the Dawra year busy with, and what verse? Because I think I'm just going to tune into the Dawra years now already.
Yeah, not a problem. If you guys want to join and listen in, we're doing Surah Nur in the Dawra class, Surah Nur. And I actually just started, well, I did 10 verses of the surah before COVID, so when we were still in the masjid. But because other classes were added to that, so I started in like a quick overview of the content of those 10 verses last week. So if you want to join me, you are more than welcome. I think you would have heard a lot of the discussion that we were having last week. I can't remember what we were discussing, but aspects related to those verses. So I think we're on maybe about verse number 2 or 4 or something like that. But we'll check when we're in that class now. So I'm going to go there. If you want to join there now, Bismillah, or otherwise you can join at 10:30, inshallah.
There's a question in the chat, Maulana.
Salam alaikum. Can you give the link of the I'rab we discussed? I'm not sure what does Uncle mean the I'rab we discussed, that I'rab book.
Yes, where Maulana showed us that it is in full, the original sources.
Arab al-Quran. There are many I'rab tafasir like that, but this one that I was using was Arab al-Quran of Darwish. I'm just going to get you a link to it quickly, and then I'll share it with you. I'm going to share it in the comments. So Aziza's hands up. Okay, there we go. You can download it from that link, inshallah. Muhyiddin al-Darwish. Okay. If there's no questions or anything, I'm going to head off to the other class, and you can join us there if you so please, or like I said, a bit later. And for now, جزاكم الله خيرا وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Oh yes, for homework, just go through, complete whatever homework you might not have done before, and revise the sarf and whatever concepts we've done here. And there for now, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.